Alright, welcome to episode 104 of What If Civilization Started Over. In the last episode, we saw loads of wars occur, like a war over here in Bulgaria, where they conquered the Thracian regions of Greece, including Macedonia, which isn't Thracian, but close enough, right? We saw a revolution happen in the Galician country, which overthrew their monarchy and installed a new autocratic government. We saw the Vancouver country expand into Alaska, which is now the friend, forcibly, and they've now got this cool new alliance between them, which is just those two guys. South America did nothing as usual, and Africa did probably nothing, but maybe something. The Persians invaded Pink Country. Loads of nations left the nation's alliance because they're all kind of scared of Franklism, because that's kind of growing, and it's really people lying about being democratic. So there's still other members who aren't Franglo, like the Gangetti country in Italy, but they're not super enthusiastic about it anymore. Whilst Korea, Indochina, the Franglo Union, and Norway definitely are. The Koreans took over Okinawa, and you guys invaded somebody, South Sumatra, and that's about it for that video. So today we're going to look at nuclear bombs. That's how we're going to start today off, just like I like to start off every day. Alright, so I've given nukes to lots of different countries, and I need to remember to update you guys, because I didn't. There's only 3 countries left in the world that can produce nuclear bombs, being the Franglo Union, Korea, and Indochina, which is, scarily enough, they're all Franglo countries. You guys now have 48 nuclear bombs and 11 outside your territory, with another 3 in America, 3 in Andalusia, and 5 in the Romanian country. Otherwise, they've all stayed the same. The Koreans and the Indochinese have left all their nukes in their territory, and everything's kind of good in the world. It's not going to stay that way, though. Yeah, we've got this very cool sort of layer here in the nation's alliance. It'd be a really big shame if Italy, Bulgaria, Hungary, interestingly enough, and Poland were all to leave the alliance, probably along with a load of other countries within their influence, like Cyprus. You guys will stay, but there could definitely be more nations who intend to leave, especially over here in China, with like a nuclear build-up from some of these countries. Yeah, the nation's alliance is collapsing, and the Franglo Union is going to turn to Italy and be like, hey, what was that about? Why did you leave the thing you literally made? We only have 3 veto members in this thing. Loads of countries left. We need you to keep this alive. And the Italians are like, you're the one who's ruining this. Franglo Union, with your stupid ideology and Franglism, you're ruining the chance the world had at unity and things like that. And the Franglo Union is going to kind of take that badly, so they're going to send their navy in around Italy to try and blockade them off and get them to rejoin the International Organization for Global Peace, which has so far really failed. They haven't done a whole lot. They tried to prevent wars, and they have definitely prevented some wars, especially in the Middle East, but they can't really stop Hijaz. Africa's been a lot more peaceful because of them. I don't really think they've done anything in South America. I think South America's kind of just like that. But North America, yeah, they stopped you guys from invading Alaska until you did invade Alaska. There's just been some random other stupid ones that have occurred, and you can stop those. So Italy's like, it's not even that good anyway. It doesn't need us. You're ruining it. You're the one who's made it so it doesn't work. It's your fault, man. And they were blockaded, and it's going really badly. But luckily, Poland can trade out until Poland is navally blockaded too by the Norwegians this time. So it's all going well until the Italians do a bit of a strange thing, which is they break the blockade, and they shoot through a few ships. They really need some more resources into the country, and there's probably some sort of resources that they've run out of in some sort of district, maybe in the south. And they blow up a load of Franglo ships, and this is good enough justification for the Franglo Union as they take on the mantra of their Eastern Franglo kind of allies, I suppose. And they just declare war on Italy and the entire Italian alliance, and World War IV has begun. Franco forces move across the border here into Italy, and the thing to note is the Italians weren't not expecting this. They definitely thought, they might invade me at some point. This isn't a super far-fetched idea at all. So we see Franco forces push into the Italian state, moving across the south, but also in different areas towards major cities close to the Italian border, and just in order to protect their own from Italian invasion. Italy, at the start, is just doing so much worse than the Franglo Union in this war. The Norwegians up north are just going to be sending troops around, and the Andalusians will be doing the same, which means they're going to hold a lot of naval power. They can still get the ships through, and they can probably get them through Constantinople over here to help Romania, who's in a pretty bad spot. The German forces up here in the north are going to start their own invasion into Italian territory, moving across the border and taking one major city. They could have potentially been in the future a top 10 power, but since the split with Eastern Germany, they're definitely not up there anymore. They're not even a top 20 power, which is kind of depressing. Speaking of world powers, I did actually update the power rankings for our World War episode. So that's 2022. No, Morocco is in 11th, they're huge. 12th is New South Wales, 13th is Western Australia, although both countries are very close and little is needed to kind of equalise the balance between them. Carthage is 14th, 15th is Poland, 16th goes to Vancouver. New England is up here with the 17th spot, 18th is Bulgaria, 19th is the Andalusian country, and 20 is the Caucasus country, although they might be stronger than Bulgaria and Andalusia. And maybe, I don't know, the last few, they're all pretty close in terms of power, and Romania is also very close to being in that list, but they're not, so we'll want Romania. So is Egypt. Egypt's kind of strong. Anyway, back on with the war. Let's do that, shall we? Yeah, German forces, they're doing some cool stuff. Well in Germany. Meanwhile, Poland and Bulgaria are going to start their own invasions of the Romanian country, who is not unprepared for the war, but they hoped it wouldn't happen, as Polish forces do really, really good work in pushing through their northern areas. Both these countries on their own could beat Romania, so when together, yeah, the Romanians are not going to have a great time. They're going to do a pretty good job moving through the north, but Romania isn't a weak country by any means. They're one of the strongest in the world, so they only really make it into these first areas, whilst Bulgaria also moves up here in the south, moving into this area, this weird panhandle bit, taking that city. There's lots of different bits so they can just kind of cut across, which is useful. And they push up towards this major city here. They move around encircling this coastal one, but not quite taking it, and they connect up their front lines down here in the south. So Romania isn't having a great time, but let's actually just continue here, because at the moment the war has two front lines. The Bulgarians manage to capture this major city and push through this one, and they push up towards the major cities up here in the north. There's also Bulgarian people in this territory. Region map. Yes, these... What the hell? I don't even know. This area is Bulgarian ethnicity. Helpful stuff. Thanks, guys. Thanks, me. Anyway, the Romanians are going to try and push out in this coastal region, managing to push back the Bulgarians for greater coastal access for trade, whilst the Polish here in the north are going to start to try and spearhead, or at least build a military invasion towards the capital of Romania, which they're doing pretty bad in terms of stopping. Romanian troops over here in the east managed to send the Polish basically out of the city, but not quite. But they almost encircle it, so that's cool. Romanian troops move through this eastern area and they push towards major cities here, western area. Anyway, back to the Italian front. The Franco-Union is having amazing success against the Italian country as they absolutely blitz through their front line, taking over Lake Geneva, and they get close to like the main major city area of the Italian country. That's some really historic territory. There are lots of mountains here, but you know, it's 2022. They can beat mountains now. We beat COVID. They can beat mountains. Germany continues to move on pretty impressively from the German state. However, Germany is going to have a pretty huge shock as the East German state is going to decide to join the war, which is not something that they probably expected it, because they don't really like the Eastern Germans, but they didn't want that to happen at all. And the East Germans, in their surprise invasion of Germany, have a lot of success, kind of surrounding a city down here, pushing it back to their military occupied territory, which leads to a major Italian victory down here in the south as they regain all of this land, and with aid from the Eastern Germans, they managed to occupy this southern city. So Germany has done pretty badly in this surprise invasion. However, Norwegian troops are quick to arrive and they blitz through the northern invasion of this country. From here, Germany starts their invasion into the East German country, and now there's two different areas of invasion into this bit. This is kind of like Eastern Europe versus Western Europe. That usually doesn't go well for Eastern Europe, so we'll see how this war goes. But the Italians, with some success, like aid and surprise stuff from the Eastern Germans, do manage to push back some of the German advances into their own country. So that's pretty cool. Back over here in Bulgaria, they're doing even more great work against the Romanian country as they continue to move in through the south, building one consolidated front line now and pushing up to this new Panhandle Peninsula. There we go. And they take over this city, which manages to blockade off the Romanians from access to the coast, except for the people living in that area. And they get to this weird line of cities that is probably due to a trade route. I imagine. Anyway, the Romanians do have some more successes as they push back through this area, regaining connection to the coast. The Polish manage to rebuff the advance into that area as the Romanians really start to fall apart. They're a very long country, and that's not really helping them. I don't know why it would. They managed to push back a little bit back here in the western regions, getting over to the border of Poland, but not retaking that city or anything really around there. The Poles are going to regain this territory because, and at the moment things aren't looking good for the Romanian country. However, let's do some more weird stuff, which is the dropping of nuclear bombs. Now, nuclear bombs aren't like in our world where it's really controversial to drop nuclear bombs on people. In this world, it's kind of like, yeah, that makes sense. That's something I would do. As the Germans drop one nuclear bomb onto the capital of the East German country, followed by 2 more. After this, the Eastern Germans are going to drop nuclear bombs all over Germany, so they drop 3 of their own over the German country. I have cleared up a lot of the nukes because they've got technology to kind of do that, like cesium and stuff. I don't know. Oilseed rape, that does something apparently. Anyway. Alright, so the Germans, now, just generally, they've got less nukes, but this kind of makes other countries think, should I be using my nuclear bombs? And the Italians are not going to use their nukes, but the Romanians, in their time of desperation, will decide to use their nukes, which is like, okay, you're not completely destroyed, but fine. They drop one nuclear bomb onto the capital of the Bulgarian country and their old capital, before unloading the rest of their nuclear bombs, which is, only 3, on the Romanians, so... Oh yeah, okay. I got confused there for a second. But it's all good, and goodbye to your nuclear supplies. There's just 5 more nukes on the drain for you guys. But they're kind of fine with that, There's just a few nukes, and they can rebuild after the war, so it should be okay. Anyway, yeah, you're not doing great on that front. However, the front over here with, I should probably keep the nukes drop layer on. But the East German country has just got a lot better due to the nukes, and they managed to take the capital of the East German country before Polish forces arrive, managing to push back through the south and into this area, although the Norwegians are far more powerful than the Polish. So, yeah, we'll see how successful this is. The fronts over here start to really fall back, as they only really control the southern area, and after that, a combination of German and Norwegian forces push into this territory, taking over 2 major cities from the East German country. The Italians are managing to hold back the German invasion here, whilst the Franco-Union starts to invade into some of these other outer Italian cities towards their main very wealthy area over here. They do not manage to take over the island of Corsica, but it's not looking great for the Italians. Anyway, over here to Romania, we can see that something really big has just happened for them, because Ukraine has decided to join the war, and Ukrainian troops will immediately help out. Ukraine is a pretty interesting country. They just came back from existence, and currently they are a centrist government. It's very democratic, so them joining what will become World War 4 is kind of interesting. At the moment, it's kind of just a European regional war, but it's going to escalate. They start to push back against Polish and Romanian and Bulgarian forces, and it's something they really did not expect to happen to them, and they send their own forces across into the border of Poland, taking one major city and pushing up towards some others, even taking this one, which is being nuked. This is more of a surprise invasion, and they really weren't expecting it. They're very much entrenched over here in the eastern regions, and Polish troops over here are going to continue to have successes as they take more major cities either side of the capital city. But this western or eastern region is not doing great at the moment. The Bulgarians are going to try and push back against some Ukrainian forces, but the surprise invasion has done a number on the Bulgarian morale and just general, everything in the war. I mean, it kind of shows that maybe countries like the Franco side more than they like their side. I mean, they only got the help of a random rebellious country in eastern Germany, so they didn't get the best new help. German forces over here in Italy are going to continue to push in again, taking more major city and starting to invade in towards this area. The Italians, the Eastern Germans, eventually retreat from their areas of occupation in Germany, and it's now fully unoccupied, so that's good. But the front line over here in Eastern Germany has stabilized, and at the moment it's all pretty stale. The Franco unit is having more successes against the Italians, of course, because they're quite a bit stronger than them. However, something interesting has just happened over here in Asia, and it's between the 2 major power blocks in Asia. If we go onto the alliance layer, we can see there is the Diamond Alliance between, I can't count, 6 different countries over here, 2 of which are very poor, and the parallelogram lines between the Koreans, the Indo-Chinese, and the West Papuans. Both of these sides, I take a big deep breath there. I've been talking a lot non-stop. Both these alliances have picked sides in the war, with the Korean side helping out the Franco-Union and their Francoist allies, and the Ganjiatic side helping out the Italians, who are just, in their view, fighting for democracy, even though both of them, like in 2000, had autocratic governments. But shush, don't worry about that. They're democratic guys now. I mean, the Ganjiatic countries like a full democracy, and they're a left-wing one as well, so that's cool. Anyway, they've been sending aid to them, and the Koreans and the Ganjiatic country do have very good relations in terms of trade, not really diplomatically, but they still trade well. So this has led them to dock at a Ganjiatic port. However, a group of random thug people just destroyed a load of stuff the Koreans were sending to the Franco country in this port, and the Koreans are going to decide to investigate it, and it turns out it was linked to a government agency who was trying to destroy aid that was going to go to the Franco-Union to make sure that they couldn't help them. I don't know why I was saying that. Anyway, this all doesn't sit well with the Koreans or the Indo-Chinese, as it turns out they had a little more plots and different ways to go, oh no, that's bad that that's happened. And one thing leads to another, and they end up in a war. They have like a big conference over here in China, and they all get angry at each other. And yeah, as I said before, the diamond and the parallelogram alliances will be pulled into this war. However, some more weird fighting stuff goes on in Mesopotamia, which I haven't really talked about yet. And all countries are in the war together now, so it's a big 4-on-4 battle. Speaking of Mesopotamia, the Franco-Union is having more successes down here as they push through into the core territories of this Mesopotamian area, whilst the Ganjiatic country, who kind of saw this war coming earlier because they're like, we could definitely get into a war here, they're going to take the initiative in their invasion of the Korean country, which now leads to... Oh, wait a minute. You could just use the same color from here. Let's grab that. Don't use the one I just made up for you. You can use this one, which is completely identical. Anyway, they're doing a pretty good job at this bit, but now they realize they need to help their Korean allies against the Ganjiatic country, so they're going to send their forces in to the Ganjiatic invasion area. And now there's some weird like north-south front lines over here in Mesopotamia, which is apparently involved in the war, kind of weirdly. So that's fun, I suppose. Anyway, what next? Yeah, there's a huge new front line. Alright, so with the official declaration, I went over to Europe for some reason. With the official declaration of war by these countries, we're going to see fighting on the front lines between the Indo-Chinese and the Tibetans. There's not really all that many fronts for these guys to fight on, so it's mostly just going to be this one. But the Indo-Chinese have a huge advantage over the Tibetan country in that they're just stronger. That's their main advantage, really. And they start to really quickly take over Tibetan cities in the area, which there aren't that many because it's Tibet. But the cities here are fairly valuable because of China's like lend-lease or whatever, I don't know, investment into this country, and they do a pretty good invasion so far. However, there's two more countries that they border now, one of which is this poor little grey one, as they are absolutely brutally mutilated in this war against them. They lose the capital city very quickly, but they manage to hold out in the other two remaining cities. And apart from that, there's this northern one up here, as they lose another major city of their own, and the Tibetans just failed to defend this country. To be honest, the Tibetan country is really big, so it's kind of taking a while for Ganjiatic and other Indian allied countries to send their forces in, but the Indo-Chinese have a lot of success at this point in the war, so that's nice. The Koreans don't border anyone, so they're just going to send aid to Indochina and to their allies over here, and the aid is going to be going through the Bosphorus and over here to aid the Ukrainians for the most part, because this is the front where they're doing the worst. But the Ukrainian, or the aid to the Ukrainians, is allowing them to push back to the Bulgarian border and also just kind of do a bit against Poland, but they're more focused on their actual invasion into Poland, which is going very well at this point. The Norwegians are also sending a lot of their forces around to Ukraine, of course, like through Petrograd and through the Blue Country and then into Ukraine. Yeah, you can't really send them through Poland. That would be the most direct route, but not going to work really, unless you invade Poland, which they're not managing to do at the moment because of the stupid front line in Eastern Germany. It's not really moving that much, but the Western Germans are starting to regain some success in this territory. As for Italy, Italy's going to do something kind of radical, which is maybe a predictable thing to do, but they're going to drop a crazy one nuclear bomb onto the Franco-Union. Only one doesn't sound like that much, but it's still an entire nuclear bomb, so that kind of sucks. Nuclear technology by this point in the series has gotten a lot more powerful and a lot better, so they definitely hurt a lot more, in 2022. But the Franco Union is also going to launch with their own nukes, launching 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 nuclear bombs. Yeah, that's a bit more than 1. So they are down to 35 now, which is still over 11 times more than are in the Italian countries, so that kind of sucks for those guys. Anyway, the war in Romania is going a lot better, and that's kind of worrying this country, so they decided they need to pull some probably potentially drastic measures to ensure that things go better for their alliance. And that includes a Bulgarian invasion into little Constantinople country, which actually goes a lot worse than they predicted, as Constantinople, it turns out, has a lot more population. So during this time, Romanians are going to continue to have successes pushing back the Bulgarian forces, and with a lot of aid from Ukraine and Moldova, Norway, not Moldova, and Korea, they're going to manage to do all this stuff against the Bulgarians, who are really just suffering from a huge loss of morale. The Ukrainians continue to push in. Then, the major breakthrough happens down here in the Bosphorus, and the Constantinople country is completely crushed, meaning the Bulgarians have naval dominance over this area, and they can effectively block the city of Constantinople. Now, they had their naval assets here, so putting your naval assets in the Bosphorus doesn't mean you just win, but it kind of does, because it's a lot harder to get through this one strait rather than through the entire Aegean Sea, and they couldn't fully block the Dardanelles, so yeah. It's going a lot better now, and it's going to be a lot harder for these guys to get resources in, but it's not like they're really winning on this front entirely either. Over here in Poland, they got very close to taking over the capital city of Romania. However, with the aid they managed to push, they'll be pushed back against. Oh, what am I saying? They've been pushed back a bit, so that sucks. Anyway, sad old Poland. Back over to the Middle East, where there's still some fighting going on. The Franco Union is continuing to push in against these countries as they do this, and then over here in the Ganjiatic country, they're going to start their invasion. However, the Ganjiatic country has seen a lot of success over here in the eastern part of the Korean country, or Korean occupation, taking two more major cities, and pushing them back to one straight line, until finally, after this, they managed to push the Franco forces entirely out. They didn't have the biggest force garrisoned there, but they did the most to help the people and to improve the infrastructure of their territory, even though it wasn't the wealthiest, which is one of these two western areas. They were both much wealthier. The Italians are kind of been held back a little bit. However, the Ganjiatic country sent some forces in to help them out and push back some of the Franco forces, although most of the core capital territory is held by Franco-allied countries, so that's annoying, I suppose. Anyway, the Franco Union is going to see more success over here in Italy. What did I do? Due to the nuclear bombs, they managed to move right towards the capital city, and they also moved towards the Adriatic Sea. They don't quite take it though, or take access to the sea, so that's good. You don't really want the Franco Union having access to the Adriatic Sea. That would be kind of scary. Anyway, the Germans are having more success pushing into Italy, which is making them look a bit like real-life Germany with Austria. So that's kind of fun. But the Eastern German country is also completely failing to push back against the Germans. However, something pretty interesting has happened up here in America, because the American country has just been invaded by two of their neighbors. First off, we need to go down here to Texas. They will be the first country to join the war, as they push out from around their capital city into the American country. Most of the American troops were fighting in Italy or Germany, and they really weren't expecting Texas, of all countries, to start to invade them, but apparently Texas is invading them now. So that really sucks, as Texas takes over Louisiana, and they manage to push through out of these eastern areas. And the other country... Okay, what is going on? The other country is not going to immediately join the war. First, what they do is drop a load of nuclear bombs on this country. As we see, I can't find any nuclear impacts on America. As we see, a crazy 2 nuclear bombs hit America, one hitting the capital city and one hitting the Delmarva area, which leads to this country only having 4 nuclear bombs left. And of course, this is the great New England country. They were one of the nations who secretly received nuclear bombs from the Russians. There is one other country who received secret nuclear bombs from the Russians, and they will be here in this war in the future, if not already. But yeah, they're going to start their invasion into America too, and America was definitely not expecting this one. They thought they had pretty good relations with this country, and they also thought they wouldn't get nuked by them, because they thought they didn't have nukes, which is, a really, really fair guess, I would say. But America's going to lose a little land up here in the northern part during the start of this war. It was not heavily defended at all. They barely had any infrastructure or defense on this northern border because they never thought they'd end up at war with a New England country, or at least if they did, they would know about it more. So America starts to really fail in the early stages of this war. Finally, they did pull their act together and they managed to push back against the invasion here in whatever this is, Michigan, I think. I get Michigan and Wisconsin confused because they're such similar areas. Anyway, Texas continued to invade up here down here in the south, and they also push in taking this major city. However, the Americans will finally pull their head out of the sand in this territory, and they take over all this lost stuff back from the Texans. So that's good, but you're also having a horrible time in this war. As for nuclear bombs, they're going to just use all three of the ones they just gained from the Franco-Union to attack. I really can't say Franco-Union. Yeah, I'm having a speech impediment, guys. They dropped one on the capital of the New England country, one over here, and then another one on the capital of Texas, because they're mean like that. America will keep a hold of their original 2 nuclear bombs, which kind of equals the playing field over here in America, but not quite. Anyway, yeah, America's now involved, and so is Constantinople, weirdly enough. With the blockage of Constantinople, we see much more success from the Bulgarian country as they manage to push back a majority, if not entirely, all of the advances from the Romanian country. After this, the Bulgarian troops do not stop moving as they continue to move up here into Romanian territory. Ukraine did not make it on the top 20 list. Romania did not make it on the top 20 list, and Ukraine and Bulgaria did, or Poland and Bulgaria did. So they see some more success after the blockage of this strait, I suppose, as they managed to push back against Ukrainian forces in the eastern part of their territory. Yes. The Koreans are also sending more troops to help fight in Tibet, which I probably need to go. Okay. I should probably go look at now. So the Indo-Chinese are still having lots of success. We see Gajiatic troops arrive on the front line, which is definitely going to slow it down a bit. But the Indo-Chinese and Korean combined military is way too strong, and now the Green country is completely isolated off from the rest of their allies, except by plane, because planes exist in the world. Yeah. Sometimes I forget they do, and it's like, whoa, planes. That's kind of crazy. We do see a very strategic country during the war, however, which is the Bengali country. They want to regain all the lands they lost to Indochina in the previous war they had, like a few episodes ago. So they declare a surprise invasion of this country. They are a very democratic country. However, the people, in a secret referendum after the not secret, because after the war had been declared, the people wanted this war to happen. It was the public opinion they should get involved, as trying to join the war against the Ganjiatan country, and now you're gonna get invaded. So that's pretty cool. We see 3 major cities taken very quickly, and up here in the very rural areas, things go badly for them. The Indo-Chinese troops move in from the northern occupied territory in Tibet. However, it serves as a pretty good distraction, as we see forces over here in Indochina have to retreat from some of this territory to go fight on the heavily populated Bengali front line. However, the Bengali military is very much depleted since they had to fight a war not very long ago. So Indochina is doing a pretty good job at invading this country so far, but we can see more bad things happen for this team going on into the future. One thing we do see, however, is the joining of New South Wales into the war, which won't do much, but they're here, so that's pretty good. Western Papua was already here, and they're another Franco country, which I think means that all Franco nations are now involved in this conflict, so that's pretty fun. Anyway, over here in Italy, they are going to finally lose their capital city to a Franco invasion, and also the island of Corsica, so that sucks. But one country is going to get lost finally, and that's going to be Romania, as the Hungarians joined the war, sending their forces into western Romania. They really started to do a lot of work. The Romanians by this point had kind of realized that it made sense for Hungary to join the war, but they just didn't have enough troops or manpower to really protect themselves from the Hungarians, so the Bulgarian troops reached the Ukrainian front line, and finally the Polish troops have their success up here in northern Romania, taking the capital city, and at this point the nation will collapse. The troops will stop fighting, and Poles don't have Polish heritage anyway, so they're kind of like, I don't really care enough anymore. The Ukrainian troops all fall back, and finally Poland takes over all of Romania. So that's pretty good. And now it's just Ukraine, left all on their own over here in the east, But don't worry, they're gonna get a new friend, and it's Caucasian shaped. As the Caucasian country declares war on Ukraine, and they start an invasion to get back lands they lost thousands of years ago. But they are culturally Ukrainian, or Caucasian, I mean, so that's pretty good. Ukraine was not expecting this because Caucasians done basically nothing apart from invading Turkey since they came back again. But the Caucasians move in towards the Crimean Peninsula and nearly cut the Ukrainians off from this territory, and that's where I'm going to end today's episode. So yeah, thanks for watching. The beginning parts of World War IV were quite a lot of fun to record, and in the next episode we're going to see the end of World War IV. And believe me, it's going to get so much more insane. There's one thing that we've been leaving out so far, and it's going to completely radically change the world. Yeah, it's quite a historic thing that existed not too long ago and basically changed everything, especially in Asia. But yeah, we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for watching and have a nice rest of your day. Goodbye.